Welcome back to Legion Builds, where I show you how to bring your favorite fictional characters into your games of Dungeons & Dragons. If you like this build, please like and subscribe to our channels. We release 2 builds a week on both Spotify and YouTube. Today we are building the monster hunter Trevor Belmont, the main protagonist of the Castlevania series and several of the Castlevania video games. Like all members of House Belmont, Trevor is dedicated to the eradication of undead and creatures that go bump in the night. But unlike the rest of the Belmonts, Trevor is also dedicated to being plastered 24/7. Trevor is also a renowned member of the Belmont family for killing Dracula, so he's the best of the Belmonts. Our goals for today's build are to make a badass monster hunter who uses one of the worst weapons in Dungeons & Dragons. I get it, whips are cool, but in D&D they're not. In real life, they are difficult to master, but awesome to use if you get it down, and in D&D, they just plain suck. They do a D4 damage and have a 10-foot reach. That's it. So one of our goals is to make whips cool. So cool you can kill death. I know killing Dracula is a flex, but kicking death's ass is even better. Finally, we need to be able to kill anything, and I mean anything. Trevor killing death was not a joke. He killed death. I'm sure that guy has immunities and resistances like there's no tomorrow. For stats, we're using standard point array and we are multi-classing. Boy, are we multi-classing. I told you whips suck and we need to hit a lot of classes. So keep minimums in mind. We'll start with wisdom at 15. You know when to fight, when not to fight, and best ways to fight. Dex will be 14, as whips are finesse, and you jump around a lot. Intelligence will be 13. You know pieces of lore that even people who pride themselves on knowing things don't know. Con will be next with 12. You're in great shape, but damn, do you drink a lot. Strength will be next at a 10. You're good in a fight, but not really that good. Finally, we'll dump charisma because no one really likes you. You smell like booze and are an unapologetic bastard. People want you around to kill monsters, not because of your sparkling personality. Trevor is a human, but a cool one, so variant human will do. Place +1 into Dex and into Wisdom. For your feat, Slasher adds +1 to Dex, reduces the speed of a creature by 10 feet when you hit with a slashing weapon until the start of your next turn, and when you deal critical damage with a slashing weapon, that target has disadvantage on the next attack roll till the start of your next turn. Hey, look at that. Haven't even gotten to the first class level yet and I'm already making whips better. I'm actually good at this, aren't I? For your skill, take History. For your background skills, we need to round out your amazing arsenal of knowledge. Take Arcana and Religion. Now you can impress the wizard girl that never stops talking and makes you want to be a better person. Which is good because did I mention you're really not liked anywhere? We're starting things off with Fighter, so take Perception and Insight. Level 1 fighters gain a fighting style. Dueling adds +2 to melee damage when you're only holding one weapon in a single hand. Not much of an improvement on whips, but I'm getting there. Second Wind allows you to heal 1d10 plus your fighter level as a bonus action. Level 2 fighters gain Action Surge. You can now gain an extra action once per short or long rest. Level 3 fighters gain their subclass, and this is where we're going to give Whip more realistic abilities. Battle Masters can perform special maneuvers with their weapons, increasing damage and adding effects. At the start, you receive 4 superiority dice. These are d8s that fuel your maneuvers. Disarming Attack adds your superiority dice to the damage of your weapon and forces a strength save. If the save is failed, the creature you attack drops 1 held weapon. Lunging Attack adds your superiority dice to weapon damage and increases the weapon's reach by 5 feet, meaning your whip is now 15 feet, which is still not as long as how Trevor can make that thing in Castlevania. Seriously, I think at one point it's like 20 feet to 100. Trip Attack adds superiority dice to the weapon damage, and if the creature is large or smaller, they must now make a strength saving throw or be knocked prone. I have successfully made a whip more realistic and make it work more like a real-life counterpart while adding damage. It's time to be a monster killer. We're hopping over to Monk. Level 1 monks gain unarmored defense. Now when you're not wearing armor, your AC is 10 plus your dex modifier plus your wisdom. You don't need armor anymore, which is good because of what we get next. Martial arts improves your unarmed combat while not wearing armor. Your unarmored attacks do 1d4 and you get to use your dex instead of strength. Simple weapons are also now dex based and you use your martial arts dice for or the damage, which starts off at D4 but will grow over time. Your whip is not a simple weapon, so it doesn't benefit from martial arts dice, yet. You can also now make a bonus action attack with your offhand when you're not holding a weapon. Level 2 monks gain ki. This is similar to superiority dice, but instead is points you can use to give yourself more abilities. For these abilities, Flurry of Blows now lets you make 2 unarmed attacks with a bonus action. I know he normally fights with his whip, but he also kicks people in a certain area quite a lot. Patient Defense lets you take dodge as a bonus action. Step of the Wind lets you take disengage or dash as a bonus action and doubles your jump distance for 1 turn. Unarmored Movement adds more movement when you're not wearing armor, bringing your total movement to 40 feet. Finally, Dedicated Weapon turns one weapon you are proficient with into a monk weapon. Now this is not too important, as the next level we're going to get something better for your whip, but you don't have to follow this build. You can change and customize it how you want. If you don't want what we get next level, use this instead to turn it into a monk weapon. Level 3 monks gain Deflect Missiles. You can now reduce the damage of weapon projectiles by 1d10 plus your monk level plus your dex modifier. If you have an open hand and reduce the damage to 0, you can catch the projectile and yeet it back at someone. Key Fueled Attacks lets you spend 2 points to make 2 attacks with a bonus action with your monk weapon, such as a simple weapon or a short sword. You also receive your subclass. Kensai monks are weapon specialists. Path of the Kensai lets you choose 2 weapons to turn into Kensai weapons. These weapons are monk weapons that you become proficient with and will become better over time. You can only have 2 right now, a melee and a ranged, but they can't be heavy or special, though the longbow can be chosen. Agile Parry lets you add 2+ to your AC when you use your Kensai weapon for defense and only attack with your unarmed strikes as a bonus action. Kensai Shot lets you deal 1d4 damage with a ranged attack with your Kensai ranged weapon by using your bonus action. Level 4 monks gain Slow Fall. You can reduce falling damage by 5 times your monk level, which right now is 20. Quickened Healing lets you spend 1 key point to roll a martial arts dice, regaining HP equal to the roll plus your proficiency modifier. You also gain our first ability score improvement. Let's place this into Dex and bring your AC to 17. Level 5 monks gain Extra Attack. You can now attack twice with a single action, bringing your total attacks up to 6 with Action Surge or Flurry of Blows. Stunning Strikes lets you stun a creature for 1 turn after hitting with a melee weapon attack by forcing a con save. We need to discuss something real quick. So, a melee weapon attack is actually defined as a melee attack, not an attack with a weapon. This does not mean your fists are weapons. Your fists do not count as weapons, but your unarmed strikes count as weapon attacks. This is confusing and bothers the shit out of people with OCD. Trust me, it bothers me a lot. But if it says melee weapon attack, it actually just means melee attack. If it says attack with a weapon, it means a weapon attack. Done clarifying. Wizards of the Coast, please fix this in your books by actually changing it to say weapon attack, or define it as not a weapon attack with unarmed. Please, OCD people will thank you. Focus Aim lets you add up to 3 key points to increase an attack roll by adding 2 for every key point you spend. Finally, your martial arts dice are now a d6. Your whip now has better improved damage and bonus damage. Level 6 monks gain Key Empowered Strikes. Your unarmed strikes are now magical. Kensai monks receive 1 with the blade. Your Kensai weapons are now magical. Death Strike lets you spend a key point to add another martial arts dice to the damage rolls. You also gain a new Kensai weapon, Go with Short Sword. Finally, your unarmed movement increases to 45 feet. Let's take a break for a second to examine your whip. We are now at character level 10 and your whip deals 1d6 slashing damage and is magical. You can stun an enemy, reduce their speed by 10 feet, give them disadvantage on the attack roll. You can also add a d8 to the damage, and in doing so you can trip your enemies, disarm your enemies, or add 5 feet to the reach. Last but not least, you can add a d6 to the damage and automatically add +2 when you're not holding any other weapon. We've invested a lot into this build to bring your whip to Trevor's standards. And if this is where your campaign ends, great, but we're not done with this build yet. Level 7 monks get Evasion. Now when you roll a successful dex save, you take no damage and half on a failure. Stillness of Mind lets you end the charm or frighten effect on yourself. You deal with monsters all day, pull yourself together and kick some ass. Level 8 monks get another ability score improvement. Place this into wisdom to bring your AC to 19. Level 9 monks receive a new feature for an unarmored movement. You can now move up vertical surfaces and across liquids without falling while you're moving. But you do not stick to surfaces, so you will fall when you stop. Level 10 monks receive Purity of Body. You're now immune to all disease and poisons, like alcohol. Yes, alcohol is a poison, and now we can understand why you're drunk all the time and still capable of so much. Your unarmored movement is now 50 feet. Level 10 Kensai monks receive Sharpen the Blade. You can now spend 3 key points to add bonus damage to the attack and damage of your Kensai weapons equal to the key points you spent. You can also take a third Kensai weapons. I'd say daggers, but up to you. By the way, your martial arts dice are now a D8. Your whip now does 1d8 magical damage and can load up on abilities and extra damage. I have made the whip awesome in D&D. Suck it, Dracula. Now it's time to add even more damage. Heading over to Ranger, you get a new skill proficiency, take Survival. Level 1 Rangers gain Favored Enemy. You can now choose a favored enemy, go with Undead. You have advantage on any intelligent check to recall information about them, have advantage on tracking them with survival checks. The Wizard now loves you. This is the only way I can understand why she likes you at all. Like, seriously, you have the personality of a turnip. Deft Explorer gives you Canny. Choose one of your skills and give yourself double proficiency for it. Place it into Perception for a passive perception of 26. Level 2 Rangers gain a Fighting Style. Blind Fighting gives you a blind sight of 10 feet, meaning you can never be blinded within that 10 feet, and you can see invisible creatures that aren't hiding within 10 feet. You're also a Spellcaster. For your spells, Longstrider adds 10 feet to your movement for 1 hour, bringing your total movement to 60 feet for that hour. Cure Wounds lets you heal someone or yourself for 1d8 plus your Wisdom modifier. You lead your friends into the bloodiest of battles. You need this. Level 3 Rangers gain Primeval Awareness. This lets you expend a Ranger spell slot to sense any special creature within 1 mile for 1 minute. You will not know how many there are, but you will know their direction. You also receive your subclass, and this will be no surprise for anyone. Monster Slayers are Rangers who specialize in killing monsters. Hunter Sense lets you use an action to choose one creature within 60 feet of you. You immediately learn if it has any damage immunities, resistances, or vulnerabilities and what they are, unless it's using divination magic to hide, and then it doesn't work. You can use this a number of times equal to your Wisdom modifier between long rests. Slayer's Prey lets you designate a target within 60 feet with a bonus action. Now, every time you hit the target, you will deal an extra d6 of weapon damage. This benefit lasts until you finish a short or long rest. You also gain a Slayer spell. Protection from good and evil protects one creature, someone else, or you from a chosen type of creature, like undead. The chosen type of creature has disadvantage on attack rolls made against who this spell is targeting, and the target of the spell can't be charmed, frightened, or possessed by the chosen type of creature. This is a concentration spell and must be maintained for 10 minutes. You also get a new spell. Hunter's Mark lets you mark a target within 90 feet with a bonus action for 1 hour. While marked, you have advantage on perception and survival checks you make to find the marked creature, and you will deal an extra d6 of weapon damage to it. If the target dies, you can use a bonus action to move it to a new target. This is a concentration, so you can't use it with protection from good and evil, but it does stack with Slayer's Prey. Both require a bonus action, but last for a long time. Use your movement to get out of sight, then mark a target with both before jumping into action. Level 4 Rangers receive our final ability score improvement. Place this into Wisdom for an AC of 20 and a passive perception of 27. Our final level is level 5 Rangers, and sadly you don't really receive any benefit from extra attack because that doesn't stack, but you do receive a new Slayer spell and a Ranger spell. Zone of Truth creates a 15-foot radius sphere for 10 minutes where any creature who enters it must make a Wisdom save. Should they fail, they cannot tell a lie within that sphere. Both they and you know if the spell is affecting them, and they can dance around any question you ask but must answer truthfully. Should they leave the spear, they are no longer affected by the spell. This is not a concentration spell, so you can use it with other spells that require to be maintained. Pass Without a Trace adds +10 to your stealth rolls and the rolls of any creature you choose within 30 feet. You leave no tracks or anything else that would mark your passing. Time to dive into this build. Your speed and movement are amazing. 50 feet while not wearing armor, 100 feet with Step of the Wind, 60 feet or 120 feet with Long Strider included. You attack twice with your whip, 4 times with Action Surge, 6 times with Action Surge and Flurry of Blows. You can also run up walls, and falling from 55 feet means no damage. Your whip is amazing, dealing 1d8 magical damage by itself. You can boost the damage multiple ways and add effects such as slowing the creature by 10 feet, stunning, and more. You can also learn important information on your targets, and you recall information at advantage. You can also learn important information on your targets and can recall information with advantage. Oh yeah, you also have an AC of 20, an AC of 18 halfway through this build, and you have a passive perception of 27, and your stealth rolls can be 15. Downside, you have limited resources. 11 key points, 4 superiority dice, and 6 spell slots. You'll need the superiority dice to add d8s to your whip and perform special moves, and your key adds more damage and movement, and your spell slots, movement, damage, and healing. Finally, multi-classing has forced you to skip out on some really cool things, such as better martial arts dice, more attacks, or even better spells such as Elemental Weapon, letting you create the Morning Star. In all honesty, these cons are not bad. Because of the versatility of all your abilities, you can easily plan things out, so by the time you run out of one thing, you can get it back or use something else. Learn your enemy's secrets and weaknesses, coordinate with your team, and save the world from darkness. Thank you everyone for joining me today. If you like this build, check out other badass monster slayers like Jill Valentine from Resident Evil, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or Ash Williams from Evil Dead. We release new builds weekly on both Spotify and YouTube, and over on Patreon, we release weekly polls to decide release schedules.